Nobody in this room is coming for you.
Who are they? Why won't they say anything? Why won't he explain? Why won't he explain?
Why is he so calm? Admiral?
The bailiff had just called their names when the officer leaned over the defense table and whispered, "Nobody in this room is coming for you." Two black men in plain jackets sat with their hands folded, accused like strangers in a town they had quietly protected for years. Why did they refuse to explain who they were? Why did the prosecutor keep glancing at the sealed envelope on the clerk's desk? And why did the arresting cop suddenly turn pale when the rear doors opened and a Navy admiral stepped into the courtroom? What happened before that moment would expose more than one bad arrest, and the silence of those two men would become the loudest testimony in the room. The rear doors of courtroom 3B opened with a wooden groan, and every whisper died. Sergeant Cole Maddox had been leaning close to Marcus Reed, one hand on the defense table. A second earlier, he had looked bored. Now his fingers lifted from the wood as if it had turned hot. The woman in the doorway wore a dark navy dress uniform. Silver hair sat beneath her cap. Captain Grace Lynn stood behind her with a leather folder. Judge Eleanor Marsh lowered her glasses. "State your name." "Rear Admiral Vivian Hart, United States Navy." Officer Kevin Sutter stared at his hands. Marcus moved only his eyes toward the voice, then back to the bench. Beside him, Eli Warren kept both palms flat. The chain between his cuffs lay still. The room smelled of wet coats, old paper, and coffee. Judge Marsh looked at the two black men in plain jackets. Apparently, the court was not told several things. Maddox straightened. They refused lawful instructions and interfered with court security. And the envelope? They would not identify it. Lila Grant rose. Her chair scraped the floor. "That is not accurate, counsel." "Then I'll be precise. The report says ID was refused. My clients state ID was shown. The evidence log says no envelope was recovered. But the clerk's schedule shows one expected before 9:30. At the side desk, Helen Shaw stopped writing. Her pen shook in the light. Maddox gave a short breath. "They can say anything now." Marcus spoke for the first time. "We said it before the arrest." His voice was low, but Jenna Ortiz twisted the napkin until it split. A teenage witness near the aisle looked down at his phone. Judge Marsh leaned forward. "Mr. Reed, why did you not insist during booking?" Marcus glanced once at Eli. "Because there was a procedure that mattered more than my pride, Your Honor." Maddox laughed. "Convenient." Admiral Hart stepped into the aisle. Her heel clicked on the tile. The laugh stopped. Captain Lynn opened the leather folder. "Your Honor, secure the envelope and recordings before testimony continues." Donna Voss frowned. "Recordings?" "Body camera, courthouse security," Lila said, "and 2 civilian videos." A stir moved through the benches. Sutter rubbed his thumb along his seam until Maddox cut his eyes toward him. Judge Marsh set both hands on the bench. Her ring touched the microphone. "Sergeant Maddox, where is the sealed envelope?" "It was processed with personal property." "That is not what your report says." "It may have been categorized later." "By whom?" Maddox opened his mouth. No answer came. Eli leaned toward Marcus. Nia called again before they took the phones. Marcus's fingers closed beneath the table. The cuffs gave a faint silver sound. I know. Admiral Hart's gaze moved to his wrists, then to the judge. She showed no anger, and that made the room colder. Judge Marsh turned to the clerk. Mrs. Shaw, did your office receive notice of a sealed delivery? Helen lifted a cream-colored receipt slip. Your Honor, she said, thin but steady. I logged it before the arrest reached the docket. Bring it here, the judge said. Admiral Hart removed her cap and waited as the clerk crossed the floor with the first piece of paper Maddox had failed to control. At 6:45 a.m., Marcus Reed stood barefoot on the kitchen tile, holding the coffee pot above an empty mug while rain tapped the window. Dad, Nia called, you're pouring nothing. He looked down. The pot was on the counter. Nia came in, wearing her cardigan, curls pinned with blue clips. Between her palms rested a folded paper crane. You slept? She asked. Enough. That means no. The kitchen smelled of toast, dish soap, and coffee grounds. On the refrigerator, a field trip form curled beside a photograph of Nia's mother in yellow. Nia placed the crane in his hand. For today. He turned it carefully. Blue notebook paper, one wing uneven, the center crease soft from her fingers. I'll keep it safe. You always say that. I always try. Her eyes moved to the stove clock. My program starts at 4. Not 4:10. Not almost there. 4. Marcus slid the crane into the chest pocket of his gray jacket. The paper made a small, dry sound. First row. You promise? I promise. A horn tapped outside. Eli Warren waited at the curb in a dark sedan. Nia followed Marcus to the door. Is it dangerous? No. Is it classified? His hand stayed on the knob. Cold air pressed through the frame. It's court paperwork, he said. That wasn't an answer. It's the one I can give before breakfast. She straightened his collar, the way her mother used to before deployments. Marcus let her do it. For a moment, the house held only rain and the scrape of her fingers on his jacket. 4, she said. 4. Eli pushed the passenger door open when Marcus reached the car. She gave you one of the birds. A crane. Important distinction? In this family, yes. Eli pulled from the curb. Port Mason was half awake, the courthouse dome blurred by low clouds. Wet leaves clung to the windshield until the wipers dragged them aside. Captain Grace Lynn called at 7:12. Senior Chief Reed, you and Warren on schedule. 20 minutes out. The sealed envelope is logged under Judge Marsh's chambers, handed only to the clerk or the judge. Eli glanced over. Morning to you too, Captain. This is routine until someone makes it otherwise. Marcus watched the courthouse clock tower rise ahead. Understood. And Marcus? Yes, ma'am. After this, go to your daughter's program. The line ended before he could answer. At the public lot, Eli killed the engine. The rain had thinned to mist. Marcus removed the cream-colored envelope from the inside compartment of his jacket. It carried a red sealed stamp, court initials, and a tracking number written by hand. Eli nodded toward his pocket. Cranes sticking out. Marcus pushed it deeper, but one blue wing remained visible. You're nervous, Eli said. I'm late in advance. That's not a phrase. It is when you have a 12-year-old. They walked toward the courthouse steps. The stone smelled damp and metallic. A coffee cart hissed near the curb, and a young woman under a green awning looked up. Across the street, a patrol car idled longer than traffic required. Inside it, someone lowered a radio. Marcus noticed, then kept walking. The envelope stayed flat under his hand, warm from his coat, while the blue paper crane brushed once against his knuckles. The patrol car heater clicked twice before it gave any warmth, and Sergeant Cole Maddox slapped the dashboard like the machine owed him respect. "Come on," Officer Kevin Sutter said. "It's just cold." Machines get lazy when people excuse them. Steam fogged the windshield, turning the courthouse into a gray shape behind rain. Maddox had parked where he could watch the steps and the coffee cart without being watched back. The radio hissed. "Unit 12, status?" Maddox lifted the mic. "Observing court traffic. Nothing worth your poetry, Mara." Dispatcher Mara Velez paused. "Copy that, Sergeant." Sutter almost smiled, then stopped. A stack of printed reports lay between them. The top page carried a brown coffee stain through a paragraph from the night before. Maddox placed his palm over it. "You want me to reprint that?" Sutter asked. "No. It'll go to records. It goes where I say it goes." Rain ticked on the roof. Courthouse employees moved under umbrellas, shoulders tight against the damp air. Maddox folded the stained report and pushed it into his door pocket. The radio crackled. "Unit 12, possible suspicious persons near courthouse approach. 2 adult males, plain jackets, one carrying a large envelope. Caller reports they've been circling the entrance." Sutter frowned. "Circling?" Maddox took the mic. "Who called it in?" "Anonymous courthouse line. Black males, late 30s maybe. One taller, gray jacket. Second in dark coat. No visible badges." Through the wet glass, 2 men walked from the lot. One kept a sealed envelope under his hand. The other scanned the street, not like a tourist. Sutter leaned forward. "They're just walking." "That what I asked?" "No, Sergeant." "Then listen before you narrate." Mara returned. "Do you need court security?" "Negative. We'll handle." Sutter shifted. "Maybe we should ask the clerk if there's an expected delivery." Maddox turned slowly. "Confirm what?" "The envelope has a red mark." "You read that from here?" "I saw something." "You saw what you wanted." Sutter looked down at his cup. His fingers had dented the lid. "I'm saying it might be nothing." Maddox opened his door. Cold air rushed in, sharp with wet pavement and exhaust. "Nothing is how problems get inside the courthouse." They crossed before the signal changed. A bus exhaled at the corner, brakes sighing like a warning. Maddox did not hurry. He made other people adjust around him. At the coffee cart, Jenna Ortiz paused with a milk pitcher in hand. "Morning, Sergeant." Maddox didn't answer. A teenager with a backpack watched the officers pass, then watched the 2 men nearing the stone steps. Sutter murmured, "There are witnesses." Maddox's jaw moved once. "Good." The taller man in the gray jacket noticed them and slowed. The small blue corner of something paper showed near his chest pocket. The envelope remained flat under his hand. Maddox stepped into their path at the bottom of the stairs. "Gentlemen," he said, loud enough for the coffee line to hear. "Let's talk before you go any farther." The taller man stopped with one foot on the first wet stone step. His voice came even and low. "Is there a problem, officer?" Maddox smiled without showing his teeth. "Step back from the doors," Maddox said. Marcus kept one foot on the first wet step. Rainwater gathered along his shoe. Eli stopped behind him, watching Sutter's notebook. "We have business inside," Marcus said. "Everyone says that when they don't want questions." The coffee cart hissed. Jenna Ortiz, 27, apron tied over a denim jacket, held a cup in midair. Maddox pointed at the envelope. "What's in your hand?" "A sealed court delivery." "For who? The clerk or Judge Marsh?" "You got a name?" "Marcus Reed." "And him?" "Eli Warren," Eli said. Marcus moved one hand toward his jacket. I have identification. Hands where I can see them. Marcus froze. A delivery truck rattled past, filling the space where no one spoke. My ID is in this pocket, Marcus said. I'm telling you before I move. Sutter glanced up. Sergeant, he's advising. I heard him. 2 fingers. Slow. Marcus removed a black wallet. A military ID sat behind the plastic window, its edge worn smooth. Maddox took the wallet to the patrol car hood. That's official property, Marcus said. It's evidence if I decide it is. You can verify it by calling the number on the back. Maddox pressed his thumb over the corner of the card until the plastic bent against the metal. Rain dotted the ID window. Real authority leads with it. Marcus's jaw tightened once. Authority is not why I showed it. Near the newspaper box, Malik Carter, 17, in a school hoodie with a cracked phone in hand, stopped pretending to wait for the bus. Jenna leaned from the cart. Sergeant, the court gets deliveries every morning. Did I ask for coffee or legal advice? Her face went still. She wiped the same clean spot twice. Eli looked at the wallet. Officer Sutter, please document that the ID was presented. Sutter's pen hovered. Don't take instructions from suspects, Maddox said. We're not suspects, Marcus said. You became suspects when you refused to explain that envelope. It is sealed. Open it. No. The word was quiet. Maddox smiled. It is addressed to the court, Marcus said. I won't break the seal on the steps. Sutter shifted, rain dripping from his cap. Maybe court security should confirm. Stand by. The courthouse doors opened. A clerk stepped out, saw Maddox's hand on the wallet, and stepped back inside without speaking. Maddox lifted the wallet again. This doesn't explain why you were hovering with sealed material. We were walking to the entrance, Eli said. You were watching the street. I watch streets. Convenient habit. Marcus lowered his voice. Return my ID, call the clerk, and we can all go inside. Maddox slid the wallet across the hood toward Sutter. It stopped in a shallow puddle. No, he said. Now we do this my way. A murmur passed through the coffee line. Malik raised his phone, then lowered it when Sutter's eyes found him. Jenna's hand moved under the counter. Marcus looked once toward the courthouse clock. 8:41 a.m. I need to be out by afternoon, he said. Maddox leaned closer. Then you chose a poor morning to test me. The blue paper crane shifted in Marcus's pocket as he lifted both hands away from the envelope, making sure every witness could see them empty. Empty hands, Marcus said, hands open above the envelope. Maddox turned toward coffee line. You hear that? He thinks he's running the stop. No one answered. Rain tapped on umbrellas. The espresso machine hissed behind Jenna Ortiz's cart. Eli angled toward Sutter. Your sergeant has our names, our ID, and destination. Write that the ID was shown. Sutter's notebook stayed low. I have the names. Maddox's head snapped sideways. Kevin. The pen stopped. Jenna set a coffee on the counter and forgot to call the order. Her phone lay beside the sugar packets. Malik Carter lingered near the newspaper box. Maddox raised his voice. These men are refusing to identify sealed contents at a secure courthouse entrance. That is not what happened, Eli said. Then open it. It is sealed for the court, Marcus said. Call the clerk. I don't need permission to investigate. Maddox stepped close enough for rain from his sleeve to touch Marcus's jacket. You got something smart to add? Marcus looked at the badge, not the face. No. That word made the crowd smaller. Jenna slid her phone off the counter, sticky with syrup. She lifted it halfway, pretending to check a message. Sutter saw her. Maddox followed his glance. "Put the phone down." "I'm working." "Then work." The phone lowered to her apron, but the lens stayed pointed between coffee sleeves. Marcus's pocket buzzed. Once, then again. He did not reach for it. Eli shifted only his eyes. Maddox smiled. "Going to answer?" "My hands are where you told me to keep them." Someone whispered, "Just let them go in." Maddox spun. "Who said that?" The whisper disappeared into rain and shoes. Marcus's phone buzzed harder, and the small blue crane slipped from his chest pocket. It struck the wet step and opened one uneven wing. Marcus looked down. For the first time, his mouth changed shape. Eli took half a step forward. "Stay back," Sutter said. "That belongs to his daughter," Eli said. Maddox glanced at the crane. His boot landed beside it, close enough to press one blue corner into muddy water. Marcus's fingers curled, then opened. "Pick it up," Eli said. "He can't move." Sutter stared at the paper as rain darkened the fold. Marcus said, "Leave it." "Marcus, leave it." The phone slid from the pocket after the crane, screen up. NIA flashed once, dimmed, then flashed again. Jenna's recording caught the name. Maddox spoke louder, as if dictating the report already. "Failure to comply. Interference with court process. Refusal to disclose contents." "We complied," Marcus said. "You refused. I refused to break a court seal. And now you're raising your voice." Marcus had not raised it. Malik knew it. He lifted his phone with both hands. Sutter leaned close. "Sergeant, there are cameras." "There are always cameras." "I said stand by." Nia's call ended. The screen went black, leaving the crane in the puddle and Marcus's reflection broken across the wet stone. Maddox reached for the cuffs. "Turn around, both of you." Eli breathed through his nose. "On what charge?" "Obstruction." Marcus looked once at the silent doorway where the clerk had vanished, then at the blue paper pressed flat by rainwater. "Do what he says," he told Eli. The cuffs clicked on Eli, then twice on Marcus. A bus hissed at the corner. Someone in the coffee line drew in a breath and never finished it. Marcus kept his shoulders loose, but the metal closed around his wrists with a cold bite that made his fingers spread. "Not too tight," Eli said. Maddox tugged the chain. "You'll survive." "Sergeant," Sutter murmured, "I should check the fit." "You should open the rear door." Marcus looked at the blue paper crane on the wet stone. Rain had flattened one wing. His phone lay dark beside it. "Officer Sutter," Marcus said, "my phone and that paper go in personal property, separate from the envelope." "I'll note it." "Don't take instructions from him," Maddox said. Jenna stepped from behind the cart. "Sergeant, he showed you ID." "Go back to selling coffee." "He did. I saw it." Malik's phone rose near the newspaper box. "I saw it too." Sutter moved half a step. "Put the phone away." "Am I breaking a law?" Maddox shoved Marcus's wallet into a clear bag. The military ID flashed through wet plastic. Marcus said, "That ID needs verification. It needs evidence storage. The envelope needs court custody." Maddox picked up the cream envelope. The red seal faced outward, water beading along the edge. Eli's voice tightened. "Do not bend that." Sutter held out a marked sleeve. "Sergeant, sealed court material uses the red pouch." Maddox took the sleeve. "It's close enough." "No, it isn't," Marcus said. Maddox slid the envelope halfway into the wrong bag. Its corner caught. He pushed harder, creasing the paper near the tracking number. Marcus closed his eyes. "Open them," Maddox snapped. Marcus did. "Please preserve chain of custody." "That a threat?" A request. You think you know my job? I know this part of yours. Sutter's pen tapped his notebook. Once, twice. He wrote something, then stopped when Maddox looked at him. Take them to the car, Maddox said. Eli turned first. His wet shoes squeaked on the stone. Marcus followed, cuff chain brushing his jacket. Jenna moved toward the crane. Can I pick this up? No. It'll get ruined. Then it gets ruined. Marcus heard it, but did not turn. Sutter opened the rear door. The vinyl seat smelled of rain and disinfectant. Marcus ducked his head. The cuffs pulled his shoulders back when he sat. Eli slid in beside him. You good? Marcus stared through the windshield at the courthouse clock. 4 o'clock. I know. Maddox slammed the door hard enough to rattle the glass. Outside, he spoke into his radio. Transporting 2 for obstruction and suspicious sealed material. Mara Velez's voice came back. Any injuries? No. Marcus turned his wrist until the metal stopped cutting. A thin red line had already risen above the bone. Sutter stood in the rain with the wrong sleeve under his arm. The envelope inside was bent at the corner. The crane still lay on the step, trembling when drops struck it. Helen Shaw watched through the courthouse glass, then turned away. Sutter looked at Marcus through the window. For a second, he seemed about to speak. Maddox called his name. The patrol car pulled from the curb, leaving the courthouse behind, and the blue crane beside a phone that had begun to ring again. The holding cell door shut with a hollow clang, and the sound stayed in the cinder block room. Marcus sat on the metal bench. The cuffs were off, but thin red arcs remained above both wrists. Eli checked the camera, drain, and blank wall. No clock, Eli said. That's not an accident. Beyond the desk, a phone rang against a hard surface. Once, twice. It stopped. Marcus lifted his head. Eli sat beside him. Don't chase sounds. That was mine. You don't know. I know her ringtone. A pipe above the sink clicked. One drop gathered and fell into the basin. At the desk outside, Sergeant Paula Keene, 54, gray hair and reading glasses on a chain, turned a clipboard page. Names. Marcus Reed. Eli Warren. Dates of birth? They answered. Her pen scratched. Maddox's voice carried from the hall. 2 in holding. Obstruction, courthouse interference, suspicious sealed material. Keene said, Property sheet? Coming. That means no. Sutter spoke quietly. Wallet, phone, folded paper item, and envelope. Paper item. A small bluebird. Maddox snorted. Put it with the fairy tales. Marcus closed his fingers on his knees. Keene appeared at the bars. Any medical needs? No, Marcus said. Eli looked at his wrists. Cuffs were tight. No medical needs, Marcus repeated. The phone rang again, thin through concrete. Marcus's hand moved toward a pocket that was gone. Marcus, Eli said. He let it fall. She'll think I forgot. She knows better. She knows adults always have reasons after children already waited. Eli leaned forward. Counsel, property inventory, chain of custody, nothing else. Maddox returned, holding the cream envelope in the wrong sleeve, its corner bent near the tracking number. You ready to explain what this is? I want counsel, Marcus said. You think that scares me? I want counsel. Same, Eli said. Maddox pressed the sleeve against the bars. A simple answer could have kept this easy. You were given simple answers. Sutter stood behind him, rain dark on his shoulders. Keene extended her hand. Evidence comes through my desk. I'm handling it, Maddox said. Maddox pointed at Marcus. You bought yourself a long day. Marcus said nothing. After they left, fluorescent tubes hummed. Damp wool cooled against Marcus's shirt. The pipe clicked. Drop. Eli whispered, "He wants one sentence he can quote." "I know." "Then don't give him one." "Nia's program is at 4, Marcus said. "We still have hours." That's what people say before clocks disappear. Another ring came through. Then a recorded child's voice broke in before desk noise swallowed it. "Dad, it's me." Marcus stood so fast the bench legs scraped. Keene called, "Sit down." He stayed on his feet. Eli rose beside him. Marcus faced the bars. "Sergeant Keene, that is my 12-year-old daughter. Please notify her I'm safe." Maddox called from the office. "No special treatment." Keene looked from Marcus's wrists to the blank wall. The room held only the hum and the next bead of water forming above the sink. "I'll note the request," she said. "Drop." Marcus sat, and outside the cell, Sutter began writing on a form where the first printed line already read, "ID refused." "ID refused," Sutter wrote, then stopped with the pen tip pressed so hard the paper dimpled. Maddox tossed Marcus's wallet onto Sergeant Keene's desk. "Finish it. Court wants them by 10. Keene lifted the clear bag. The military card sat inside, wet along one edge. "This says United States Navy." "It says whatever plastic says." Sutter kept his eyes on the form. "He presented it at the steps." Maddox turned. "Unverified. Write what matters." The pen moved again, slower. At 9:48 a.m., Lila Grant hurried through the side entrance with a legal pad under one arm. She was 35, small-framed, with dark curls pinned too quickly and a red pen tapping her thumb. Helen Shaw met her outside courtroom 3B. "They gave you the Reed-Warren file?" "They gave me 6 pages and a headache. There was supposed to be a sealed delivery." "For this docket?" "I logged notice before 9:30. "Was it received?" Helen's lips pressed thin. "Ask the arresting officer." Lila opened the file against the wall. The pages smelled like toner and damp folders. Maddox's report listed suspicious approach, refusal to disclose contents, failure to comply. Her red pen moved down the page, then froze above one line. ID refused. A deputy opened the hallway door, letting in the roar of waiting families. Lila looked toward Holding. "Where are my clients?" "Downstairs intake." Minutes later, Marcus and Eli sat across from her in a narrow room with a bolted table. The air smelled of bleach and old coffee. Marcus's wrists rested palm up, red marks bright against his skin. "I'm Lila Grant," she said. "Assigned 9 minutes ago." Eli said, "That sounds about right. I need clean answers. Did either of you refuse to identify yourselves?" "No," Marcus said. "Did you show ID?" "Yes." "To whom?" "Sergeant Maddox. Officer Sutter saw it." "What kind?" "Military." "Current?" "Yes." "Why does the report say refused?" "Ask the report." Eli leaned forward. "The envelope was sealed for Judge Marsh. He tried to make us open it outside." Lila wrote sealed for Judge. "Where is it now?" Marcus's pause lasted one breath too long. "Wrong evidence sleeve, last I saw." Lila's pen stopped again. A knock cut through the room. Dana Voss, 42, assistant prosecutor, entered in a gray suit and pearl earrings, file held like a shield. "We're moving fast," Dana said. "Fast is how mistakes survive." "Sergeant Maddox says your clients escalated at the entrance." "My clients say the opposite." "They carried sealed material they refused to explain." "Court material." Dana's eyes flicked to Marcus. "That hasn't been established." "Then establish it before you ask the judge to accept his version," Lila said. Dana lowered her voice. "The sergeant says they're trained, controlled, and evasive." Eli's chair gave a tiny metallic creak. Controlled is not evasive. Dana's face hardened. Hearing starts in 12 minutes. She left. Through the door, Marcus heard phones ringing somewhere below. None of them were his now. "Until I see that envelope and the camera footage," Lila said, "the system will treat the report like gravity." Marcus looked at his wrists, then at the red pen resting above. ID refused. "Then make it lighter," he said. "Then make it lighter," Marcus said. Lila held his gaze over the red pen. "I need something heavier than my opinion." A deputy knocked. "Counsel, court in 10. "Then I'll spend 9 well." Eli leaned forward. "Coffee cart? Teenager by paper box." Clerk saw Maddox with wallet. "Names?" "Jenna," Marcus said. "Card outside west steps. Boy had blue backpack." Lila shut the file. "Then I find who wasn't afraid to look." The hallway smelled of wax and wet wool. Near the public phones, Jenna Ortiz stood with both hands around her cell. Syrup marked one cuff. "You're their lawyer?" she asked. "Yes." "Did you record the arrest?" Her eyes flicked to a deputy by the elevator. "I don't want trouble." "Trouble already wrote the first report." "That officer knows my cart." "He also knows people watched him." Jenna's thumb hovered above the screen, shaking so hard the phone light trembled across her palm. "If I send it, does my name go in court?" "Maybe." "That means yes. It means I won't lie to you." Jenna pressed play. Rain blurred the image, but Marcus's open hands were clear. Maddox held the wallet against the patrol hood. Eli's voice came thin from the speaker. "Please document that the ID was presented." Lila kept still. "Send it." Jenna tapped the icon. The upload bar crept forward. A young voice said, "I have the part where the phone fell." Malik Carter stood beside the vending machine, hood up, cracked phone in one hand, and a geometry book in the other. "You recorded too?" Lila asked. 20 seconds. 20 seconds can matter. "Can they come to my school?" "I'm not trying to be famous." Lila lowered her folder. "I'm asking whether the judge should see what happened." Malik unlocked his phone and turned it around. On the clip, the blue paper crane lay in a puddle beside Marcus's phone. NIA flashed on the screen. Marcus stood cuffed, still as stone. Maddox's voice filled the speaker. "Failure to comply." Lila watched twice. The second time, she looked past Marcus to Sutter, notebook low, eyes on the wallet. The elevator opened. Officer Kevin Sutter stepped out with property forms under his arm. He saw the phones, Jenna's pale face, Malik half hidden by the vending machine, and stopped. "Officer Sutter," Lila said, "you witnessed the ID?" His fingers tightened around the forms. "I'm not supposed to discuss the case." "That wasn't my question." A can dropped inside the vending machine with a metal thud. Malik flinched. Lila stepped closer. "The report says ID refused. If false, fix it before a judge repeats it." Sutter looked toward courtroom 3B. Maddox was not there, but his absence still seemed to stand beside him. "I saw a wallet," Sutter said. "With a military ID?" "I saw plastic." Jenna whispered, "You saw it." Sutter's mouth opened, then closed. A bailiff called, "Grant, courtroom 3B." Lila's phone buzzed. Jenna's file had arrived. Malik breathed through his nose and sent his clip. "Don't say my name unless you have to," he said. "I'll protect it as far as the court allows." She turned toward the courtroom with 2 civilian videos and a report that no longer felt solid. Behind her, Sutter looked down at the top page, where the words ID refused waited for his signature. At 10:06 a.m., Lila's phone buzzed as she reached the defense table. "Court is in session," the bailiff said. "One filing, Your Honor." Judge Marsh looked over her glasses. This was listed as routine. It stopped being routine on the steps. Maddox sat behind Dana Voss with his arms folded. Sutter stood near the wall, forms pressed to his chest. Lila connected her laptop. The monitor blinked blue, then showed a body camera timeline from 8:37 to 8:55. In the middle, 7 minutes sat blank, a gray rectangle with no sound wave beneath it. Judge Marsh leaned forward. "Why is there a gap?" Dana turned to Maddox. "Battery issue," Maddox said. "The camera records before and after the ID exchange," Lila said. "It fails only while identification and the envelope are discussed." "Did you report the malfunction?" the judge asked. Maddox's mouth tightened. "I had 2 detainees." "That wasn't my question." "No." Lila opened Jenna's video. Rain blurred the picture, but Marcus's hand was clear. Maddox's thumb pinned the wallet to the patrol hood. "Pause," Judge Marsh said. The card edge showed under wet plastic. At the clerk's desk, Helen Shaw stood with a cream receipt slip. "Your Honor, I logged a sealed delivery notice at 8:28. Same tracking prefix." Dana said, "Helen, Ms. Voss, do not manage my clerk." Helen crossed the floor, shoes clicking. Marcus watched the paper move toward the bench. Eli murmured, "First chain link." "Don't pull it," Marcus said. The judge read the slip. "Officer Sutter, property record." "I started it." "Bring it forward." Maddox half rose. "He's a junior officer." "He is an officer." Sutter came to the bench. The forms trembled against the rail. Judge Marsh pointed to the top line. "Why does this read ID refused?" Sutter looked at Maddox, then at Marcus's wrists. "I copied the arrest summary." "Did you personally see identification?" Paper fluttered at the prosecutor's table. "Yes." "Military identification?" Lila asked. "I saw enough to know it should have been verified." Maddox stood. He didn't know what he saw. Sutter turned, finally facing him. "I knew you told me not to write it down." Judge Marsh set her gavel down. "Sergeant Maddox, sit." Raymond Pike, 50, bald and broad-shouldered in a court security jacket, entered with a tablet. "Judge, archive is ready. West Steps, 8:40 to 8:47. The security video opened with no audio. Rain silvered the stone. Marcus held his hands up. Eli stood back. Maddox took the envelope, then turned his body so Sutter and the crowd could not see the sleeve. At the bottom of the screen, Malik's blue backpack appeared by the newspaper box. Jenna's coffee steam drifted like smoke. "Pause on the envelope," the judge said. The red seal faced the camera for one clean frame. Helen whispered, "That is court-marked." Marcus lowered his eyes. The blue paper crane was not on the screen yet, but he knew exactly where it would fall. Judge Marsh turned to Donna. "I want that envelope located, preserved, and brought here." Sutter looked at his unfinished property sheet. Maddox reached toward his belt, remembered the room, and let his hand fall. Above them, gray missing minutes stayed on the monitor, wider than any spoken answer. The monitor froze on the seal. Judge Marsh removed her glasses. "Sergeant Maddox, was that envelope in your possession after the arrest?" "Temporarily." "Where is it now?" "In property." Helen Shaw turned from the clerk's desk. "Your Honor, property reported no sealed court delivery under this docket." "It was logged as suspicious material," Maddox said. Lila's red pen stopped. "By you?" "By procedure." Marcus sat with his hands folded. The cuffs were gone, but the red lines above his wrists still showed. Eli watched Maddox like bad weather. Donna Voss stood. "The state requests a brief recess." "No," Judge Marsh said. We clarify it here. A deputy entered with a gray evidence bin. The cream envelope rested on top, bent at one corner, trapped in the wrong sleeve. A murmur passed through the benches. Seal? Lila asked. Raymond Pike leaned over it. Intact. Damp edge. Damaged corner. Eli whispered. He bent it. Marcus answered low. Seal held. Maddox pointed at them. They carried restricted material and refused to identify it. We identified its destination, Marcus said. You refused contents. The seal was not mine to break. Donna turned. Mr. Reed, are you claiming special authority? I'm claiming the envelope had a court instruction. That doesn't explain your behavior, Maddox said. Marcus looked at the monitor. My behavior was visible on 3 cameras. Jenna sat 2 rows back, with both hands in her lap. Malik had his backpack under his chair. Judge Marsh opened the receipt again. Counsel, what sealed matter was expected? Lila drew a slow breath. I ask the court to review that under seal before anyone characterizes my client's presence. Dana frowned. We don't know these men had authority. The receipt ties it to this docket, Lila said. The videos show possession. The report omits both. Maddox leaned over the prosecutor's table. None of that changes obstruction. The rear doors clicked. It was a small sound, almost polite. Then came the wooden groan of hinges. Pale hallway light fell across the aisle. A woman in a dark navy dress uniform stepped into the doorway, silver hair neat beneath her cap. Captain Grace Lynn stood beside her with a leather folder. One polished button on the Admiral's jacket caught the window light and flashed once. Marcus's shoulders lowered. Eli shut his eyes, then opened them. Maddox turned last. The color left his face in pieces, starting at the mouth. Judge Marsh spoke into the quiet. Identify yourself for the record. The woman removed her cap. Rear Admiral Vivian Hart, United States Navy. I am here regarding the sealed matter and the unlawful interruption of 2 assigned personnel. Donna's file slipped against the table edge. Maddox whispered. Assigned? Captain Lynn opened the folder. Your Honor, we request the envelope remain sealed until the court confirms jurisdiction. Senior Chief Reed and Chief Warren were operating under lawful written order. The words landed softly, but every bench heard them. Marcus looked at the damp crease on the envelope, then toward Admiral Hart, who stood without raising her voice. Judge Marsh lifted the receipt slip. Then this court will hear exactly what Sergeant Maddox chose not to ask. Judge Marsh's courtroom held its breath around the envelope. Rear Admiral Hart stood in the aisle with her cap beneath one arm. Rain shone on her coat, and one button on her uniform caught window light. Captain Grace Lynn set a folder on Lila's table. Your Honor, I can confirm identities without exposing the sealed filing. Procedure is why we are still here, Judge Marsh said. Captain Lynn, carefully. Lynn opened the folder. Marcus Reed, Senior Chief, United States Navy. Eli Warren, Chief, United States Navy. Both are assigned to Naval Special Warfare and were ordered to deliver sealed documentation connected to this docket. Maddox pushed back his chair. They never said that. Marcus answered, You did not ask the right question. I gave my name. I showed identification. I identified the destination. Eli added, And you told us to break a court seal outside in the rain. Judge Marsh turned. Officer Sutter, did Mr. Reed present identification before arrest? Sutter swallowed. Yes, Your Honor. Was it verified? No. Why not? His eyes went to Maddox, then to the gray gap on the monitor. Because Sergeant Maddox told me to stand by. The scratching of pens stopped. Helen Shaw's hand hovered above her docket book. Judge Marsh let the quiet sit until the lights hummed. Sergeant Maddox, your report says identification was refused. In the moment, I understood refusal. The video shows a wallet in your hand. The red seal is visible on court security footage. I had seconds to act. Admiral Hart spoke without raising her voice. Seconds do not explain 7 missing minutes. Before the gap, Marcus reached for his wallet. After the gap, cuffs flashed at his back. Raymond Pike adjusted his tablet. Device file shows manual muting, not battery failure. It is plain enough, the judge said. When the monitor switched to Jenna's video, rain filled the speakers. Marcus's voice came through. Return my ID, call the clerk, and we can all go inside. The next clip showed the blue paper crane in water beside the phone screen. NIA flashed once. Marcus looked down. Eli shifted his knee against Marcus's under the wood. Judge Marsh's voice lowered. Mr. Reed, is that your child's name? Yes, Your Honor. You were attempting to reach court, not avoid it? Yes. Does the state intend to proceed on obstruction? Judge Marsh asked. Dana looked at Maddox. He gave a sharp nod. She did not follow it. No, Your Honor. Not at this time. Maddox stood. Dana. Sit down, Sergeant. He sat. Judge Marsh struck the gavel once. Charges against Mr. Reed and Mr. Warren are dismissed pending administrative review. The envelope goes directly to Chambers. Sergeant Maddox's report, camera file, property handling, and arrest decision are referred for immediate examination. Helen's pen clicked shut. It sounded like a latch opening. Maddox leaned toward Sutter. You just ended your career. Sutter did not look at him. No, he said. I stopped signing yours. Judge Marsh heard enough. Officer Sutter, remain available. Sergeant Maddox, do not leave the building. Captain Lynn carried the bent envelope to the bench with both palms under it, and the room understood which silence had finally changed sides. Naomi Briggs laid a recorder on the conference table and waited until the red light blinked. Beige walls, one alley window, cold air crossing every paper. Maddox sat with his arms folded. Officer Sutter sat 2 chairs away, damp palm flat on a blank statement form. State your name, Naomi said. Kevin Sutter. She was 48, close-cropped gray hair, black notebook full of yellow tabs. Did you see Marcus Reed present identification? Sutter looked at the table seam. Yes. What kind? Military. Maddox's chair scraped. He's guessing. Sergeant, you will have your turn, Naomi said. I made a lawful call. And you will have your turn. The vent clicked. Sutter's fingers dragged towards the pen. Did Sergeant Maddox tell you not to document it? He told me not to take instructions from suspects. That is not my question. His hand was wet enough that the paper softened beneath it. Yes, he said. Across the hall, Marcus and Eli waited under a flickering light. Their property sat in a gray tray. Wallet, phone, keys, folded paper crane. The crane had dried crooked. One blue wing curled inward, stained darker at the tip. Desk Sergeant Keene set the tray closer. I'm sorry it wasn't separated. Marcus lifted the crane before the phone. Thank you for returning it. Eli checked the receipt. Envelope? Judge Marsh signed custody herself. Marcus turned on his phone. 11 missed calls from Nia. Eli lowered his voice. Call her. In a minute. You keep saying that. I need my voice steady. The door opened. Dana Voss stepped into the hall, file to her chest, collar crooked. Mr. Reed, Chief Warren, the state will dismiss today. The referral is filed. Good, Eli said. I owe you an apology. Marcus looked up. I accepted the arrest summary too quickly. You accepted the man who sounded certain, Marcus answered. Dana nodded once. Yes. Maddox came out behind her with Naomi and a union representative. His badge was still on his chest, but Naomi held his body camera in a sealed pouch. You can't suspend me on one hearing, Maddox said. Temporary administrative leave, Naomi said. Effective now. Badge and access card. People in the hallway pretended not to watch. Helen Shaw stood at the far end with files. Maddox removed his badge slowly. The pin resisted his shirt. His fingers fumbled once. He looked at Marcus. You think this is over? Marcus folded the crane into his palm. No. Maddox smiled thinly. At least you know. I meant the report. Naomi turned toward him. The public report, Marcus said. The camera log. The evidence handling. The clerk notice. Why no one called the number on my ID? Dana lowered her file. Marcus stood. An apology helps the room it is spoken in. A report helps the next person at the steps. No one answered quickly. Sutter emerged last, holding 2 pages. His signature had blurred where his damp hand crossed the ink. He gave the statement to Naomi, then looked at Marcus. I should have said it outside. Yes, Marcus said. Now say it where it can be filed. Naomi slid the statement into a clear sleeve. It will be. Marcus's phone rang again. NIA filled the screen. This time, he answered before the second ring. 3 weeks after Marcus answered Naya's call, a drill whined at the West Courthouse entrance. Metal dust sprinkled the stone. A new white sign hung beside the doors, its left side higher than the right, held by fresh screws. Identification, verification, and sealed document procedure. Marcus read it twice with the repaired blue crane in a clear sleeve. Helen Shaw stood beside him. It's crooked. It's readable. I asked maintenance for a level. They brought a ladder. She looked at the step where the crane had fallen. Rain had cleaned the stain. Nothing had cleaned the memory. Inside, the meeting room smelled of paint, burnt coffee, and damp coats. City Council Chair. Thomas Avery, 61, careful, removed his glasses before speaking. We are not here to stage punishment for an audience. Leela Grant leaned toward Marcus. That sentence is hiding. Avery colored. We are here because a courthouse entrance became the place where procedure failed. Admiral Hart stood near the wall. Procedure did not fail by itself. Captain Lin opened a binder. New policy requires credential verification, clerk confirmation for sealed deliveries, and supervisor review before transport when court-marked material is involved. A training officer raised his hand. What if someone refuses to reveal contents? Helen answered first. Then you respect the seal and call the clerk. Eli whispered. She liked that. She earned it, Marcus said. Naomi Briggs placed a camera report on the table. Manual muting must be reported before end of shift. Missing footage preserves court security video. Property forms must record presented ID, not copied conclusions. In the last row, Sutter wore plain training clothes. When Naomi said presented identification, his pen stopped. Avery cleared his throat. Senior Chief Reed asked for 2 minutes. Marcus walked to the microphone. The black foam smelled faintly of dust. He left his page folded on the podium. My daughter made me a paper crane that morning, he said. It was not evidence. It was not a threat. It became part of the record because nobody slowed down. The room held still. I am not asking officers to ignore risk. I am asking this city to stop treating certainty as proof. He placed the clear sleeve on the table. The blue crane lay inside, one wing stained darker at the tip. Write the rule so the next person does not need an admiral in the room. No one clapped. Outside, Thomas Avery followed with his glasses in both hands. The air carried cold rain. "The ordinance vote is next week," Avery said. "It will pass. Passing is paper. Implementation schedule, public audit, monthly attendance." Layla folded her arms. "Now he's using complete sentences." Avery accepted it. "We were late." "Yes," Marcus said. Helen came out carrying a screwdriver and a small level. Maintenance left before fixing the sign. A brown leaf had caught under the lower screw and trembled in the wind. "Leave it a little crooked," Marcus said. Helen glanced down. "Why?" "So they remember why it went up." She tightened the screw anyway, but not enough to make it straight. The sign stayed slightly off against the old stone, waiting for the next person to walk through the doors. At 3:52 p.m., Marcus stood outside Naya's classroom with the blue paper crane resting in his open palm. The hallway smelled of floor polish and construction paper. Children's voices rose behind the door, bright and uneven. Eli waited beside the trophy case with 2 cups. "You made it early," Eli said. Marcus checked the wall clock. 8 minutes. "That counts as a miracle in this family?" "It counts as repair." Nia saw him before the teacher did. She was on the small stage in a navy sweater, holding a cardboard moon for the fall program. For 1 second her mouth parted. Then she kept singing, but her eyes stayed on him. Marcus sat in the front row. He placed the crane on the first desk, still inside Helen's clear sleeve. Its bent wing caught the soft classroom light. After the final song, Nia ran to him, but stopped short, like she remembered they were in public. "You came?" "I said I would." "You said that before." He nodded. "I know." She took the crane gently. "It looks different." "It had a hard morning." "So did you." Around them, parents gathered coats, chairs scraped, and a boy dragged a paper star across the floor. "I came back," he said. Nia folded both hands around the crane. "Then we can fix the wing later." 4 days later, the public report filled 9 pages and an appendix. It listed times, missing footage, witness clips, property errors, and the failure to verify presented identification. Sergeant Cole Maddox was terminated after the administrative hearing and referred for review of prior complaints. No one celebrated it in the hall. Officer Sutter remained employed under probation, removed from field duty for retraining, and assigned to community liaison work after completing a written statement and public ethics course. At the hearing, he stood at the microphone with both hands on the rail. "I saw the ID," he said. "I did not write what I saw." Jenna Ortiz received a court commendation and a new permit location closer to the courthouse entrance. Malik Carter's name stayed sealed in the public file, but Helen mailed his school a letter praising civic responsibility. Helen kept a copy of the new procedure behind her desk. Lila Grant helped draft a defense access checklist for rushed hearings. Naomi Briggs required quarterly audits of body camera gaps. Admiral Hart sent no speech, only a signed note to the city. Procedure is protection when people trust power more than facts. On a cold Monday morning, Marcus returned to the courthouse steps alone. The crooked sign was still there. A young deputy stopped a delivery driver, looked at the sealed stamp, and said, "Wait here. I'm calling the clerk." Marcus watched the clerk come out, verify the docket, and walk the driver inside. No raised voices. No crowd. No one looking away. Eli joined him by the stone rail. "You needed to see it work?" "Once." "And?" Marcus placed his hands in his coat pockets. The marks on his wrists had faded to shadows. "It should have worked the first time." Eli looked toward the repaired doorway. "Yeah." That evening, Naya taped the blue crane above her desk instead of folding it again. The stained wing stayed visible. Marcus started to suggest a cleaner sheet of paper, then stopped. "It remembers," Naya said. He looked at the tiny bird, crooked and still standing. Outside the window, the streetlights came on, one by one. If this story stayed with you, share in the comments whether you have ever seen someone judged before anyone asked the right question. Stories like this matter because dignity is often defended by quiet witnesses, careful records, and one person willing to speak when the room goes still. Share it with someone who believes justice should protect people before power protects itself. And subscribe for more stories about dignity under pressure, quiet resilience, and the changes that happen when truth finally reaches the record. Every comment helps keep these stories alive and reminds someone else that silence does not have to be the final word.